All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with yours truly.
And me.
So today we're going to be looking at a statement that's sure to spark some conversation. And it is, you're a problematic type the moment you say that ordinary people are considered terrorists more than the terrorists themselves.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right. I mean, it's a statement that can definitely make you think. And, our goal here, as always, is to unpack the ideas, to get into the nuances, and see what we can learn from it. Not necessarily to endorse any particular side or viewpoint.
Exactly.
So when I first read this statement, what really struck me was this idea that our perception of terrorism might be a little bit skewed.
Yeah.
Like maybe we're quicker to label everyday people as potential threats compared to, actual organized groups that are carrying out violence. So I'm curious, what are your initial thoughts on that? Like, have you ever encountered this sentiment before?
I think I have, and I think it's a really interesting point, because when you think about it in the context of like modern society, especially with, the rise of like surveillance technology and the internet and social media, it's like everyone's kind of under a microscope in a way. And so I think there is this sense that, maybe we're all being watched and maybe we're all being kind of categorized and labeled in ways that we're not even aware of. And so I think that kind of feeds into this idea that maybe ordinary people are being considered terrorists more than the terrorists themselves.
Right. It's like you're guilty until proven innocent almost.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that could be a really scary thought for a lot of people.
It is. And it's not just about being watched. It's also about how we talk about these issues, right? Like, this statement uses the phrase problematic type, which I think is really telling.
Yeah.
It's like the moment you voice a certain opinion, you're automatically put into a box and labeled. And that kind of shuts down any possibility of open discussion. Have you noticed that at all, like in your own experience?
Oh, absolutely. I think we see that all the time, especially online, where people are very quick to judge and label others without really taking the time to understand their perspective or their point of view.
Like everyone's so afraid of being on the wrong side of an issue that they just shut down any conversation that might challenge their beliefs.
Exactly. And I think that's really dangerous because it prevents us from having those difficult conversations that we need to have in order to, understand each other better and to move forward as a society.
So going back to the statement then, like, how does this challenge our traditional understanding of terrorism and security?
Well, I think it forces us to really question who benefits from this narrative of constant threat. Like, obviously, the danger of terrorist attacks is very real. We've seen it throughout history, and it's something that we need to take seriously. But at the same time, if we're so focused on preventing potential threats, are we overlooking the erosion of civil liberties that can happen in the name of security?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough balancing act, right? Like, we need to be vigilant, but we also don't want to live in a state of constant fear and suspicion.
And I think that's where this statement really makes us think, because it's like, are we so afraid of terrorism that we're willing to sacrifice our own freedoms in order to feel safe?
And the thing is, those freedoms are what make us who we are, right? Like, they're what allow us to express ourselves and to live our lives without fear. So if we give those up, then what are we really protecting?
Exactly. And I think that's a question that we all need to be asking ourselves.
So do you think this statement changes our perspective at all on how we perceive and discuss terrorism?
I think it definitely has the potential to, because it forces us to confront our own bias and to really think critically about the information that we're consuming. Like, are we getting our information from reliable sources? Are we considering all sides of the issue? Or are we just letting our fear and our emotions dictate our beliefs?
Right. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the headlines and the rhetoric, especially when it comes to something as sensitive as terrorism. But it's important to step back and to really analyze the information that we're being given.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that this statement really encourages us to do.
So to kind of sum things up, we've talked about the possibility of surveillance overreach. We've discussed the historical use of labels to silence dissent. And we've looked at how this statement makes us really think critically about our perceptions of terrorism. What a deep dive, right?
It has been.
And as always, we want to leave you with something to think about, something to explore on your own. So if this statement resonated with you, if it made you question some of your own beliefs, I encourage you to dive into the history of the war on terror. Look at how it's shaped our world, how it's influenced our policies and our culture. Examine the narratives that have been dominant and ask yourself who benefits from those narratives. It's a complex landscape, but it's one that's worth exploring. So until next time, keep those brains buzzing, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.